Hey y'all, welcome to another video where we're going to talk about Astro. What a surprise, right? It kind of has become a little bit of a theme on the channel. In this video, we're going to take a look at actually using Astro components in a way to almost start working on your own component system or design library, or however you want to think about it. We're going to create a heading component that allows you to select a certain range of sizes and weights and actually different levels of H1 through H6, and actually have that be auto-completable inside your text editor by using TypeScript, which is built in with Astro. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so let's get started. So at first you can see I have the very basic Astro starter ready to go. This is just created with npm create astro at latest. And I chose the minimal one and I let it install all its fun things. You didn't need to see me do that, but you'll see we do get a little bit of content here and we're going to get rid of that because we don't need it. So we have a blank page. Let's go ahead and delete the welcome Astro component as well. All right, so in this video, we are going to be creating a heading element. So it'll be something that looks a little bit like this. Heading, we're going to let it know it's going to be as some sort of level, maybe an H3, and then we'll have a size, maybe XL, and we'll have a weight of maybe bold. And then from there, we'll, hello world. And this won't work, as you can see, because there is no heading defined, but this is roughly the structure that we're going to be looking at and creating in our component. To create the component, we're going to create a new file in our components directory called heading.astro. Every Astro component is going to be able to take some front matter. That's where we're going to be able to do some work around all the data that we might want to have, including the props that we'll be able to pass in. And then it'll have an area down below where we can put our actual template in our standard Astro functionality. All right, so first things first, we do need to get some of our data from our instantiation of this component. So we're going to run const and we're going to destructure things off of it. In this case, we need the weight, and let's give the weight a default. Let's give it a normal default. We need the size. Let's go ahead and give that a default as well. We'll maybe start it at 2XL since it is a header. And then we need the as. In this case, we're also going to be using it as a component. So we're going to run it like this: as colon capital AS equals, and in this case, we'll start it as an H2. And then because we're going to want the user to be able to put anything else in here that they might on a regular heading, we're going to go ahead and spread out the rest as our attributes here. Close that and say that's equal to astro.props. And now we have access to all the data that we might pass in there. All right, so let's go ahead and get the component on the page with just the HTML. So we'll run the as here. And that's going to be, in this case, an H2 or whatever we set it to. And then let's go ahead and put an Astro slot in this section. That'll be any children that come in as we kind of go forward on this. So we'll save that and we'll go ahead and add it into our index page. So up here, we're going to have an import heading from our components heading.astro. And you can see here we have hello world in a little bit of a bold font, even though that's not what we want. And that's because we're actually getting browser defaults here. So the next thing we want to do is we want to use Tailwind on this. So let's go ahead and install Tailwind into our project. You can see this is the error from before. All right, let's go ahead and run npx astro add Tailwind, and it's going to handle most of this for us. So we'll say yes, install all of that. Perfectly happy to go ahead and scaffold that global.css. Yes, we want to add that plugin. And then it reminds us that we might want to include all of this in our global layout if we want to use it everywhere. So let's go ahead and run into that layout and go ahead and put that in at the top. There's no front matter to begin with on this default layout, so we will go ahead and add it in, and we'll import from source styles global.css. In this case, it's actually not that, even though it's telling us to do that. It's going to be one layer up since this is in our layouts directory. So /styles.global, you can see it changes it over to a sans serif font here. And then we can actually use our classes. So just so we can see it, we can go ahead and add in a class of, let's just call it text-2XL. And you can see it does in fact work. But we're going to do this a slightly different way to make this work as we want it to for our customizable component. So Tailwind does not work with dynamic classes, and that makes it a little bit difficult to do this process if we want to keep it with our size set in terms of 2XL instead of saying text-2XL. So we're actually going to create a map of our various sizes. So I'm going to copy and paste from off screen just so you don't have to watch me type over and over again. But as you can see here, we have a const sizes with a key of the various sizes we might get and a Tailwind class that is associated with them. Save that, nothing happens other than we go back to the original size. And then we're going to use the class list directive inside of Astro to allow for this to be not just a string, but actually an array of items here. And in this case, the first item I want to be is the size that is going to be pulled from this map. So I'm actually going to say from our sizes array, bring me the size class with the key of this size. So you can see it did inject a slightly bigger font, and now we can come over and we can suggest maybe 4XL to get a bigger size here. And I didn't actually think to show, but this is in fact coming through as an H3 or whatever else we wanted to. Probably should have shown that before. Anyway, we now have the size pulling. Let's also get our font weight to be respected in here as well. We're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to create a map for our weights that correspond to what we want the developer to enter and what we want it to be mapped over to in terms of our class. And we'll do the same thing with our class list here. We're going to add a new item to it, which is the weights weight. And now you can see it went to bold, and we can come back and we can change that in our component call. We can change it to normal, oops, or we can change it perhaps to light, and you can see it changes as we go. Next up, we do want to make sure that if somebody comes in and adds their own class to this, that it can come through as a new class in our class list. So as you might remember, we do have this spread attributes here at the end. We can actually use that to get the attributes classes, which is just a simple string that we can add to the end of this array down here. So we can actually get the attributes.class, and if there is a class on there, it will bring those in. So we can come down here, and if we wanted to use another Tailwind class here, we can say class equals, and maybe say text-amber-900. And you can see the color changes. Maybe we instead want to be blue. We can do that. It changes. It's just because that class is being passed in and added to the end of our class list in our component. Same could be said for any other attribute that you want to add to your headline. Maybe an ID as you're maybe building out a table of contents, or any other number of things you might add to an H1 and H2 or any heading tag you've got. All right, the next thing we're going to do is take care of these red squiggles. As you can see that this is an implicitly typed element here. We want to actually explicitly type our heading, and that's going to not only get rid of these little errors, but it's also going to make our developer experience much, much better whenever we're using this down the road and we've forgotten how all of this works. So to do that, first we want to make sure that we get all of our HTML attributes in our type, and to do that, we can actually come in and we can import the type HTML attributes from Astro's typing system. They give us the default HTML attributes for free, which is so lovely. And then we're actually going to create a new type interface for the way this is going to run. So we're going to have an interface called props, which is going to extend the HTML attributes that we had before, and we're going to pass this maybe the H1 since that is something that we might want to base this off of. All right, next up, we want to actually bring in the various types that we have down here. As you can see, weight and size and as do not exist on there. So let's go ahead and add these in. So we're going to have an as type, and that's going to be of a number of HTML attributes. In this case, GitHub Copilot telling us all of these. That's fine. I don't really want it to be a paragraph, though. This is a heading. It should be H1 through H6. The next thing I want to do is, instead of manually typing in all of this again, bold, semi-bold, medium, light, 6XL, all the way down to small, what we can do is we can allow for JavaScript to take care of this for us. So our weight is going to be of a type of key of, type of, weights. And what that's going to do is it's going to find that object and it's going to convert that over to a list of TypeScript strings, and then take those TypeScript strings and have their values be the values of the weight. And we can do the exact same thing with size. We can do key of, type of, and get exactly what we need there. So we'll save that in. And as we come back and maybe add a new heading to our home page, we can run as, and you can see it automatically pulls up here. And then we can take a look at what we need, and you can see that it can be as H1 through H6. And then we can create a size. You can see as we start typing, it gives us all the things we might want to be. We'll have it be XL, and weight equals, and go bold, light, medium, or semi-bold in this case. And then we can say, hello a second time. And there it is in the large font size, in the semi-bold. And we got all of that with type ahead and with our drop down because we were using TypeScript in our component. All that's given to us freely by the team at Astro. And really, that's all there is to it. We set things up with a simple Astro component that actually used a little like as functionality to allow a developer to choose from H1 through H6. We allowed the developer to choose what size. We allowed the developer to choose what weight, all of that through Tailwind, but set up in a way that is more user-friendly than necessarily remembering every single little Tailwind class you might need. And we made it all type safe, and we made it so that it could be auto-completed within VS Code or whatever code editor you're using by using the built-in TypeScript functionality in Astro. Let me know if you try to make a component on your own, or maybe what types of components you would like to see in a component system using Astro. And until next time, keep making amazing things on the web. Thanks, y'all.